Harold was 72, and for 4 years everyone agreed on what was wrong with him: his prostate. He was getting up 3, sometimes 4 times a night to use the bathroom, every night. So his doctor did what doctors do: checked the prostate, found it a bit enlarged, like nearly every man his age, and started him on a prostate pill. When that didn't fix it, a second one. Harold rearranged his whole life around it. He stopped drinking anything after 5 o'clock. He stopped taking evening trips because hotel bathrooms were a nightmare. He was exhausted all the time because nobody sleeps through 3 interruptions a night, and he'd started nodding off in his chair by mid-afternoon. 4 years, 2 prostate medications, and the getting up at night never got better, not really. Then Harold went in for something completely unrelated: a check on the swelling in his ankles, which had been getting worse, and a sharp doctor asked him one question nobody had asked in 4 years. When you get up at night, is it a little bit each time or a lot? Harold thought about it. It was a lot. Every single time, a full bladder. And that one answer changed everything, because a prostate problem gives you the urge to go constantly, but only a little comes out. A small, stubborn, frustrating amount. Harold's body was doing the opposite. It was making huge amounts of urine, all night long, and that is not a bladder problem at all. Harold's problem was his heart and his legs. And it had been hiding in plain sight for 4 years, because everyone, including 4 years of Harold Dees, had been looking at the wrong organ. I'm Dr. Adrian Hale. Tonight, I want to talk about one of the most common, most dismissed, and most misunderstood things that happens to us as we age: getting up at night to pee. The medical word for it is nocturia, and if you're over 60, there's a good chance you're nodding right now, because it happens to most of us. By 75, up to half of all men and women are getting up at least twice a night, every night. And here's the reframe that this whole video is built on, the thing almost nobody explains. When you get up 3 or 4 times a night, you assume it's your bladder. Or, if you're a man, your prostate. It's the obvious suspect. It's right there, and half the time it does play a role. I'm not going to pretend it never does. But for a huge number of people, the bladder is not the villain. The bladder is just the messenger. It's the organ getting told to wake you up. By your heart, by your legs, by your breathing, by hormones you've never heard of. The bladder's just doing what it's told. The real order is coming from somewhere else entirely. And that matters enormously, because if you spend 4 years like Harold treating the messenger, you never fix the thing actually sending the message. And some of those things are worth catching early. So here's my promise, the same one I make every week. I'll give you the honest version. I'll tell you when it really is just the bladder or the prostate, because sometimes it genuinely is. But I'm mostly going to show you the hidden causes nobody checks, including one that's been linked in big studies to something serious enough that you'll want to hear it. And I'll give you a dead simple test you can do tonight, in your own bed, to figure out which kind you have. Because there's a way to tell, and it's the exact question that finally fixed Harold. Let me start with why this is worth taking seriously in the first place. Most people file getting up at night under annoying but harmless. I want to gently push back on that in 2 ways. First, the sleep cost is not small. You already know a broken night makes you foggy and tired, but chronic night after night interruption does more than that. It wrecks the deep, restorative stages of sleep, the ones your brain and body do their repair work in. Poor sleep is tangled up with memory problems, with mood, with blood pressure, with weight. And there's a crueler danger that ties straight back to everything else I talk about on this channel: falls. Think about it. You're older, it's pitch dark, you're half asleep, maybe a little dizzy from standing up too fast, shuffling to a bathroom 3 or 4 times a night. That is one of the single most common setups for a broken hip there is. The middle of the night bathroom trip is genuinely one of the most dangerous walks an older person takes. Second, and this is the part that should make you sit up, is what the research has found. Large studies that followed people for years have turned up an uncomfortable pattern. The more times you get up at night to pee, the higher your risk of dying over the following years, from all causes, not just anything specific. In one body of research, getting up once a night was tied to about a 1.5 times higher risk compared to sleeping through. 2 times, nearly double. 3 or more times a night, roughly double the mortality risk. And a pooled analysis of multiple studies found nocturia linked to a 1.2 to 1.3 times higher risk of death overall. Now, I promised you honesty, so hold on, because this needs the caveat right next to it, not buried afterward. Getting up at night is almost certainly not killing anyone directly. Peeing at 3 a.m. is not dangerous in itself. What these studies are really telling you is that frequent nighttime urination is often a flag, a visible wave your hand in the air symptom of something underneath that is serious, a struggling heart, undiagnosed sleep apnea, poorly controlled diabetes. The nighttime trips aren't the disease, they're the smoke. And the reason it's worth paying attention to smoke is not that smoke is dangerous, it's that it points you to the fire while the fire is still small. So, no, I'm not telling you that getting up at night means something terrible. I'm telling you it's a signal worth reading instead of a nuisance worth ignoring. Because for 4 years, Harold ignored the signal. Or rather, he read it as coming from the wrong place. Let me show you where it's really coming from. Before we get into the hidden causes, let's figure out which type you have, because it splits the whole problem in two. And you can sort yourself into the right half tonight, in bed, for free. There are really two completely different reasons a person gets up at night, and they could not be more different. Type 1, your bladder is waking you, but it's nearly empty. You feel the urge, sometimes a strong, sudden, gotta go now urge. You get to the bathroom and only a little comes out, a dribble, a small amount. Then 20 minutes later, the urge is back. This is the bladder and prostate type. The problem is storage. A bladder that's become overactive or twitchy, or squeezed by an enlarged prostate so it can't hold much. The tank is small and leaky, not overfull. Type 2, your bladder is genuinely full every time. You get up and you pass a real substantial amount of urine, a proper full bladder amount, every trip. This is the one that means your body is actually making too much urine at night. It's called nocturnal polyuria, and this is the type that points at the heart, the legs, the breathing, the hormones. This is Harold's type. And it's the type nobody checks for because the moment someone hears, I'm up all night peeing, they think bladder, and they never ask the one question that splits the two. So here's your test. 2 things to notice tonight. First, the amount. Next time you get up, just pay attention. Is it a little or is it a lot? A genuinely full bladder every time. You can even keep a cheap measuring container in the bathroom for a couple of nights if you want to be sure. Doctors call this a bladder diary, and it's one of the most useful things you can walk into an appointment with. Note roughly how much and how many times. Second, the timing and the legs. Here's a powerful clue for the second type. When you take your socks off at night, do you see a dent? A sock line pressed into your ankle? Are your ankles or lower legs puffy or swollen by evening sigh more than in the morning? And do you notice you pee a lot in the first hour or two after lying down? Because if your legs swell during the day and you flood the bathroom once you lie down, that specific pattern is a fingerprint. I'll explain exactly why in about 2 minutes, and once you see it, you'll never unsee it. Write in the comments which one sounds like you, type 1 or type 2. I read them, and honestly, the split in the comments is going to tell a story all by itself. Now let me show you the hidden causes behind type 2, starting with the one that fooled Harold. Here's the mechanism, and it's one of those things that's so simple and so clever you'll wonder why nobody ever told you. All day long, you're upright, sitting, standing, walking, and gravity is constantly pulling the fluid in your body downward, toward your feet. In a young, healthy body with a strong heart and good circulation, that fluid gets pumped right back up and cleared out through the kidneys during the day, no problem. But as we age, and especially if the heart is a little weak, or the veins in the legs are a little leaky, both incredibly common after 65, that fluid doesn't all get cleared. It slowly pools in your legs and ankles over the course of the day. That's the swelling. That's the sock line. By evening, you might be carrying a surprising amount of extra fluid parked in your lower legs, held down by gravity. Then you lie down for the night, and the moment you go horizontal, gravity stops pulling that fluid down. All of it, all that pooled fluid in your legs, suddenly rejoins your circulation and comes flooding back toward the center of your body. Your kidneys, which have been sitting there all day, suddenly get hit with this wave of returned fluid, and they do exactly what they're built to do. They process it into urine, a lot of urine, in the first few hours after you lie down. So you wake up at 1 a.m. with a full bladder, and again at 3, and again at 5. Not because your bladder is broken, because your legs spent all day filling up like water balloons, and lying down emptied them straight into your kidneys. Read that pattern back. Swollen ankles by evening, floods the bathroom right after lying down. That's the fingerprint I told you to watch for. That's not a bladder telling you it's full. That's your legs and your heart and simple gravity. working exactly as physics says they must. And here's why the heart is in the middle of this story. When the heart's pumping power fades even a little, a condition that's astonishingly common and often undiagnosed in older adults, fluid backs up and pools in the legs even more during the day, which means even more of it comes flooding back at night. So heavy nighttime urination, especially with swollen ankles, is one of the classic early whispers of a heart that's starting to struggle. Not a heart attack, not drama, a quiet, early signal, years before it might become obvious, the kind of signal you'd very much want to catch early, the kind Harold's doctors missed for 4 years while they treated his prostate. But the heart has one more trick in this story, and it's genuinely strange. Your heart is not just a pump, it's also, weirdly, a gland. It makes a hormone. And this hormone is the hidden hand behind a lot of nighttime urination. It's got a long name, atrial natriuretic peptide, so let's just call it the P hormone, because that's basically what it does. When the heart's upper chambers get stretched, when they're dealing with too much fluid, too much pressure, too much workload, the heart releases this hormone, and the hormone travels to your kidneys and tells them, in effect, we've got too much fluid on board, dump some. And the kidneys make urine. So a heart under strain literally sends a chemical message to your bladder filling system saying, make more pee. Your heart is talking to your kidneys behind your back, and when this happens at night, you're the one who gets up. Now here's where it connects to something most people would never link to their bladder in a million years: your breathing. There's a condition called sleep apnea, where your airway collapses over and over while you sleep, and you briefly stop breathing, sometimes hundreds of times a night. Usually without ever fully waking up or knowing it's happening. It's massively underdiagnosed in older adults. The classic signs are loud snoring, gasping or choking in your sleep, and being exhausted all day no matter how long you were in bed. Here's what almost nobody knows. Every time you stop breathing in sleep apnea, your oxygen drops and your body panics. That panic puts sudden stress on your heart, and the heart responds by squirting out that same P hormone, which tells your kidneys to make urine, which wakes you up to go to the bathroom. So getting up multiple times a night can be a sign, sometimes the first sign anyone notices, of undiagnosed sleep apnea. In fact, up to half of people with sleep apnea have nocturia, and there's an extraordinary detail here. When people with sleep apnea get treated for it, usually with a CPAP machine that keeps their airway open, their nighttime bathroom trips often drop dramatically. People who'd been getting up 4 times a night for years suddenly sleep through, because the real problem was never the bladder. It was the breathing, driving the heart, driving the hormone, driving the kidneys. Think about how many men are like Harold, treated for their prostate for years, when the actual engine was a heart under strain or an airway collapsing every night. Nobody connected the dots, because the dots are in 3 different organs, and the bladder is the only one you feel. Now, I promised you honesty, and that means I'm not going to pretend it's always the heart. Sometimes it genuinely is something simpler, and you deserve the whole list. Let me run through the rest quickly, because your answer might be right here. The bladder and prostate, for real sometimes. I opened by saying the bladder is often just the messenger. But sometimes the bladder or prostate really is the problem. An overactive bladder that's become twitchy with age, or in men, a prostate large enough to genuinely block and shrink the usable space. Remember the test. If it's small amounts with a strong urge, this is more likely your camp. This is real, it's common, and it's treatable. So it's worth naming honestly, rather than sending everyone off chasing their heart. Diabetes. High blood sugar pulls water into your urine, your body trying to flush out the excess sugar. Lots of urine, day and night, often with a lot of thirst, can be a sign of blood sugar that's not controlled or not yet diagnosed. Very much worth a simple blood test. Medications, especially the timing. Here's a big one and a fixable one. Water pills, diuretics, taken by a huge number of older adults for blood pressure or swelling, do exactly one thing: make you pee out fluid. And if you take yours in the afternoon or evening, it may be peaking in the middle of the night. Sometimes the entire fix is as simple as your doctor moving that pill to the morning. And you know what's coming. That is a conversation with your doctor, not a change you make on your own. Never retime or stop a medication yourself. Bring it up, let them adjust it. The simple stuff. Drinking a lot in the evening, especially alcohol, which is a powerful diuretic, and caffeine, which lingers longer than you think. That glass of wine or evening cup of tea can be the whole story for some people, worth ruling out before you go looking for anything complicated. And the sleep trap. Sometimes it's backwards. You're not waking up because you need to pee. You're waking up for some other reason, like pain or insomnia or apnea. And then, since you're up anyway, you go to the bathroom and you blame the bladder for waking you. The bladder took the blame for a crime it didn't commit. That's why the do you fall right back asleep or do you lie awake? Question matters. If you're lying awake after, the sleep might be the problem, not the bladder. So it's a real list, and yours might be the simple end of it. The point of the whole video isn't it's always your heart. It's stop assuming it's your bladder, and go find out which one it actually is. Because the fix is completely different for each. Here's your plan, some tonight for free. The important part is the right conversation with your doctor. 1. Do the bladder diary. This is your golden ticket. For 2 or 3 nights, write down how many times you get up and roughly how much comes out each time. A cheap measuring jug in the bathroom does it. Plus whether your ankles were swollen that evening. That single piece of paper tells a doctor in 30 seconds what 4 years of guessing didn't tell Harold. It instantly sorts you into the small amounts camp or the making too much urine camp, and that changes everything about what they check. 2. Try the leg trick. Tonight, free and sometimes startlingly effective. If the swollen ankle, floods after lying down pattern is you, here's a simple move with real logic behind it. Get the fluid out of your legs before bed, not at 2 a.m. In the late afternoon or early evening, a few hours before bed, lie down and put your legs up, feet above heart level, for 20 to 30 minutes. Or take a gentle walk, which pumps the fluid out of your legs. The idea is to let your kidneys clear that pooled fluid on your schedule in the evening while you're still up, instead of at midnight after you lie down. Compression stockings worn during the day do the same job by stopping the fluid pooling in the first place. For the right person, this alone can cut the nighttime trips noticeably. 3. The easy wins. Stop fluids 2 to 3 hours before bed, but don't dehydrate yourself all day, that backfires. Cut evening alcohol and caffeine and just watch what happens for a week. For some people, that's the entire answer. Elevate the head of your bed slightly. 4. Have the right conversation with your doctor and ask the right questions. This is the one that matters. Don't just say, I'm up all night peeing and accept a prostate pill. Walk in with your bladder diary and say, I'm passing large amounts each time and my ankles swell. Could this be my heart or fluid rather than my bladder? And if you snore, gasp in your sleep, or you're exhausted despite a full night in bed, add, could I be tested for sleep apnea? Those 2 questions send the doctor down completely different and often far more important roads than the automatic prostate check. Ask about the timing of any water pill you take. This is how you avoid Harold's 4 lost years. Most nighttime urination is a slow, sort it out at your next appointment thing, but some of it travels with signs that mean see someone soon and a couple mean urgently. Nighttime urination with swelling in both legs and shortness of breath, especially if you get breathless lying flat or wake up gasping for air. That combination points at the heart and shouldn't wait. Loud snoring with gasping or choking in your sleep and daytime exhaustion, get assessed for sleep apnea. It's treatable and it's dangerous left alone. A lot of urine day and night with heavy thirst and weight loss, that can be undiagnosed or uncontrolled diabetes. Blood in your urine, pain or burning or fever, that's not the aging pattern we've been discussing. That's a see a doctor now sign that needs its own workup. A sudden change, you slept through for years and now you're up 3 times a night, is always worth asking about rather than shrugging off. The ordinary aging version is the gradual, painless, I've been getting up a bit more over the years pattern. Sudden, painful, bloody, or breathless is a different animal. That's the phone in your hand kind. Let me finish with Harold. Once someone finally asked the right question, a little or a lot, everything moved fast. The bladder diary showed full amounts, every trip. His ankles were swelling by evening. They looked at his heart and found it was working harder than it should, in the early, quiet way that's so easy to miss. They started treating the actual problem, the fluid, the heart, and they had him putting his legs up in the evening and wearing compression stockings during the day. They looked at his medications and adjusted the timing. Harold went from 4 trips a night to 1. He sleeps now. The afternoon exhaustion lifted. And the prostate that got blamed for 4 years? It was never really the story. Here's what I want you to carry out of this one. When your body does something every single night for years, it's not nagging you, it's telling you something. And the most common mistake we make with getting up at night is deciding, without checking, that it's just the bladder and just old age, and then treating the messenger while the message goes unread. So before you accept another year of broken sleep as just my age or just my prostate, do the simple test, a little or a lot. Check your ankles. And go ask the question nobody asked Harold for 4 years. Your body has been trying to tell you something at 2 a.m. It's worth finding out what. 2 things. In the comments, tell me your age, how many times you get up at night, and after tonight's test. Whether you're type 1, the small amounts, or type 2, the full bladder every time. I read every single one, and I have a feeling the answers are going to surprise a lot of you about yourselves. And if you've got a husband, a wife, a parent who's up and down all night, who snores like a freight train, or whose ankles swell by evening, send them this. Don't tell them what's wrong. Just ask them one gentle question tonight. When you get up, is it a little or a lot? You might start a conversation that finally gets to the bottom of something 4 doctors missed. Every study I mentioned is in the description, including the honest note that these are associations, and that the getting up at night is usually a signal of something else, not the danger itself. Next week, we stay with sleep, but we flip to the thing that's quietly wrecking it for millions over 60, and it's not your bladder, and it's not stress. Until then, check your ankles and sleep well. I'll see you then.